Hello friend, welcome back. In our previous video, I have already discussed about that things with you, how can working with your main root component as a app view component. So now in this video, I want to discuss about that things with you, how can working with the nested component. It means if you want to include another component to the mother component, then how can do that work. In this video, I will show you that things with the live example. For doing this, in our component area, I want to create another file and click on the save as. And I just named that component as a nav, okay, nav bar.view. I just click on the save. So in our component folder, I have created another component as a nav bar view. So friend, now I think step by step, each and everything will be very much clear to you. As I told you before, don't worry about it. If you don't understand, just continue this process. So I have created another component in our component folder as a navbar view. And into the navbar view, as I told you before, every component they have the three type of structure. First of all, you have to define that things with the template, right? So better I want to make that syntax as a PHP. So first of all, that is our first part as a template. So I just simply define the template part, and also after that you have to define that script. So I just simply define that script. So that will be our script part, and also we need another part. Another part I just defined as a style. So I just simply define that style part. Okay. So as I told you before, they have the three part for every component. Now in our template area, so into the template area, first of all, I take one of the div. First of all, I just want to designing it. Okay, here I define as the UL, and into the UL, I just define that li. So I just simply define that li. And into the li area, I just define as the ahref. Okay, I just simply define one of the ahref, and here I define one of the menu as a home menu. So I just simply define as a home menu. So now I want to take some of the menu, like as a home menu, and also I want to take another one as a post menu. Okay, and then I just define another page as a about, and also I want to take another one as a contact. Okay, I just define as another one as a contact. Perfect. And now in our script area, into this script, if you want to add it that our name, that means here I want to export it. So if you want to export it, then you have to define as the export. Okay, that is the export and the default. Okay, I just simply define as the export default. So literally it should be also clear to you why I'm actually using that default export. And here I define one of the property as a name property, and I just name that name property name as a navbar. Okay, I just simply define as a navbar. And also if you want to add one of the method, like here I define one of the method as a data method, and into the data method, if you want to return some of the things, then you can return it. Okay, so I have already discussed about that things with you. If you want to return some of the things, you can return that things from here. And also if you want to add some of the style sheet for your all that menu, okay, then you can also do that work. Better I want to take one of the nav. Sorry, I just take one of the nav, and here I just cut it, and I have to after that here I just add that nav. Okay, so here I want to add some of the style sheet for our this nav. So if you want to add that part, then you have to work in particular that area. Okay, so here first of all, that is our class. So I just define as a nav. Okay, so here I define that nav, and with the nav here I want to define that all that is style. So that is our nav. Okay, so here first of all I want to make the things as a some of the style sheet. So if you know little bit that CSS, then I think you already know about it, what exactly the things you have to do. So I just simply design some of the simple things, like I just define as a text align, and for the text align I just define as a center. Okay, and also into the nav I have defined that UL, and that is also the li. So here I also want to define that CSS. So here I define another one, and I just define as a nav. Okay, I just simply define that nav, and to the nav area I just simply define that UL, and for the UL I want to define as a pending. So I just simply define another pending as a 0, and literally we will customize it. So right now I just simply design as a nav, and for the nav there is also the li, and for the li I also want to put some of the style, like as I define as a display. Okay, I just simply define as a display as a inline. Okay, so I just simply define as an inline block, then it will be better. And then I just simply define as a list style. Okay, I just simply define list style type. So this type I just define as a none, and also I just define some of the margin, and margin I just define as a 0. Okay, so right now I just simply define as a 0, and then I define as some of the pending. So I just simply define as the 8 pixel for this one. Okay, so friend, I think you already know about it. So here I just simply define some of the style sheet for our this nav. So here I create one of our component as a neighbor. So now I want to include our this neighbor in our root component, that means in our app view component. Okay, so in particular that page here I want to load it. So if you want to load it, then what exactly you have to do? Like that is our script. Into the script area, first of all I want to include it. Okay, so here I just simply define as the input our file. So here I just define that our file as a nav, right? That is actually the nav bar, so I have to defining it. So I just simply define our file name as a nav bar, and then also we have to define our path. So I just define as a from where. So we have to also define that part. So I have to define that from, that means in our app bar. So we have to go to our, first of all, this folder, that means the component folder. Into the component folder I have created that component as a nav bar, right? So now first of all we have to go outside from here. So I just simply go outside, and then our folder name as a components. Okay, I just simply define as a components, and into the components folder I have created our file name as a nav bar, right? So I just simply define that file name as a nav bar. So I just simply added that nav bar dot view. So I just simply define that view. Okay, I think it's very much clear to you, friend. And now we have to define that component. So here that is our app, and after that here I want to define another property. Okay, I just define another property as a component. So I just simply define as a components one of the property. Into this position I want to load it. So I have to define that name as a nav bar. So I just simply define that as a nav bar. Okay, so into our property, that means our component property, I just simply define that nav bar. Into the nav bar I have already input from our this position, that means in our component, that is our file. Perfect. So now where exactly you want to visible it? So right now I want to visible it after that title. Okay, after this title here I want to display it. So I just simply define that nav bar. Okay, I just simply define that nav and then bar, and also we have to finish it. So I just simply finish that nav bar. So I just simply finish that nav bar. So now this nav bar will be loaded in particular that area. So here I added our nav bar after that title. So now let's check this out. If you click on the save all, I just click on the save all, and now go to our project. You can see it's automatically updated, and now perfectly it's now display all that our menu. That means our home menu, there is a post, and there is about, and there is a contact. So friend, I think it's very much clear to you how can load our another component. So that is I have created one of the component as a neighbor component in our component area. So now I include successfully this component in our root component. So that is our root component. Here I include it. You can see it's now perfectly getting all the data, and here I visible it. So that is our title. So in particular returned, here I just define some of the string value. So after this title I just simply define our nav bar. So we input our that file, that means the another component, to our mother component. So now it's perfectly visible. So friend, I think it's very much clear to you. And also if you want to add some of the sidebar, then you can also add that sidebar. Then you have to first of all create one of the component for this one, and then if you want to use that sidebar, first of all you have to import it. Okay, so here you have to define that name as a whatever the name you create, like as a sidebar. Okay, I just simply define as a sidebar. Then in our component you have to create one of the sidebar.view, one of the component file, and then in our property, into the component property, if you want to add that another component, then you can use it with the, like here we have to define that name. So here you have to define that name, and after that if you want to visible it, then you have to visible it on here like as a sidebar. Okay, you have to define that side and then bar. So you have to create it, and also you have to finish it. So that's how you can also, if you want to add some of the sidebar, then you can also add it. Okay, so right now it's okay with me. So right now I don't need any sidebar. So right now I just remove it. So that is our sidebar. Perfect. Now click on the save all. Yeah, it's now perfect. So we successfully include our another component to our mother component, and now it's perfectly display all that our data. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.